Every great story, every epic, it always kicks off with some kind of big problem, right? A major crisis. Well, today, we're diving into the prologue of one of the world's great spiritual epics. And this story, it doesn't start with a war or a typical hero's journey. Nope. It begins with a deep and honestly a pretty desperate quest for answers in a world that feels like it's completely falling apart.
Does that sound a little familiar? Maybe a bit too familiar? Believe it or not, this is how an ancient text, the Srimad Bhagavatam, describes the human condition during a really challenging time. It's a pretty heavy diagnosis, isn't it? It paints this picture of a society that is just desperately in need of some real answers, a clear way forward through all the noise.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter, the big question that this entire narrative is built on. When the world feels chaotic, when people are feeling lost and anxious, and it doesn't matter if it was thousands of years ago or if it's right now, where do you turn for something solid, something real? What is that ultimate good that could actually satisfy everyone? This is the problem our story is about to try and solve.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics here. The text is super clear about the setting. This isn't just any old time. It's a specific era called the Age of Kali. You can think of it as the age of quarrel or the age of conflict. Basically, it's described as a kind of spiritual dark age, a time when all the best human qualities are really on the decline.
And what's really interesting is how specific these problems are. The text doesn't just say, oh, times are tough. No, it lists the symptoms. People have shorter lives. They're quick to argue and fight. They're lazy. They get sidetracked by all sorts of confusing ideas. They seem to have constant bad luck. And underneath it all is this constant feeling of being disturbed, that non-stop anxiety and restlessness.
But right in the middle of all this darkness, there's a glimmer of hope, a group of great sages. We're talking the top spiritual thinkers of the day. They all get together, and they're not there to complain. They're there to find a real, workable solution. They become the heroes of this opening chapter, setting off on this incredible quest for the ultimate good.
And get this, they aren't just meeting for a weekend conference or something. The source tells us they all gathered in this sacred forest to start a huge ceremony that was meant to last for 1,000 years. 1,000 years? And it was all for the benefit of the people. That just gives you a sense of the sheer scale of their commitment. They knew how serious the problem was.
This right here, it's basically their mission statement. And notice what they're asking for. It's not some super complicated abstract knowledge that only a few people can get. They want something easily understandable, and they want it for the people in general. They're on the hunt for universal truth that can cut right through all the confusion of the age.
So, here's the crucial point. Who on earth could answer a question that huge? I mean, you can't just ask anyone off the street. The sages knew they needed a source, a person who was absolutely 100% credible. And they all turned to one man, Suta Goswami.
The text is really careful to kind of build his resume for us, to show us why we should trust this guy. First off, he's pure in character, totally free from vice. Second, he's not just smart, he's read everything. All the scriptures and histories. Third, and this is huge, he learned it all directly from the greatest masters. And maybe most important of all, he's humble and submissive, which means his knowledge isn't all twisted up by his own ego. He's presented as the perfect channel for this wisdom. And the text gives us this powerful metaphor for their faith in him. They don't just see him as some smart guy who knows a lot. No, they see him as the captain of a ship. And that ship is the only thing that can get them safely across the stormy, dangerous ocean of their time. It's such a great image for the kind of clear, steady leadership they were looking for.
Now, the sages were dealing with what you might call an ancient form of information overload. So many scriptures, so many different paths, all these complex duties that could take forever to figure out. They just didn't have time for that. So they asked Suta Goswami to just give them the essence, the core of it all. And in response, he points them to one single text that he says is the answer they're looking for.
And that text is the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. It's presented as the masterpiece of the great sage Vyasadeva, written specifically to address the problems of this difficult age. Its whole purpose, right from the start, is to help people tell the difference between what's real and what's illusion, all for the welfare of everyone, and to completely uproot the misery that the sages were so worried about.
And this is where we really see how the text tries to set itself apart.
It argues that, yeah, there are other scriptures, but a lot of them deal with duties for getting material things or achieving temporary goals. But the Bhagavatam, it claims, is different. It's focused only on the highest ultimate truth. It says it's a direct path, enough all by itself to get you where you need to go, cutting through all the complexities you might find elsewhere.
I absolutely love this next metaphor. Imagine all of the Vedic knowledge is like a giant desire tree that can give you anything you want. Well, according to this verse, the Bhagavatam isn't just a leaf or branch on that tree. It's the final, ripened, mature fruit. It's the sweetest, most essential part of the whole thing, the absolute culmination of everything that came before.
All right, so this brings us to the climax, the big moment this has all been building toward. The stage is set, the crisis has been defined, we've got our credible speaker, and we've got the proposed text. Now, the sages ask their final, most urgent question, and this is the one that really kicks off the entire 18,000-verse epic.
Wow, that's it. That is the core of their anxiety. Let that sink in for a second. They're basically asking, okay, the divine presence, Krishna, has physically left the planet. So where did morality go? Where do truth and virtue and all the religious principles live now? Who or what is the new anchor for humanity's moral compass now that the original anchor is gone?
And with that one question, the journey begins. It's a search for a timeless source of guidance in a world that feels totally unmoored. The answer to this question, where our highest principles can find shelter, is what the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is about to spend the rest of its pages explaining. So, what do you think that answer could be?